Okay, let's jump over and talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Recently fired Dan Quinn and looking to refine their identity after going 0-5 for the first time in a very long time, going against the Minnesota Vikings, who are now 1-4 after letting Russell Wilson come back on them on Sunday night. They definitely let that game slip away from them. Let's not take away from the fact that the Vikings looked really good in that game against the Seahawks. It was a loss in the end, but their defense played pretty strong. Russell Wilson looked pretty pedestrian through the first half. Obviously, Russell Wilson typically picks things up in the second half, which he did again. The Vikings looked good on both sides of the ball. Their defense starting to hit their stride a little bit, whereas the Falcons have been in complete shambles. So this game could go one of two ways. It's either going to be a shootout in which it's really competitive, and you're going to be really happy starting a lot of fantasy options here, or it could go the way that Mike Zimmer wants all games to go, where the Vikings are winning decisively, playing good defense. It's a low-scoring game, and you're not going to be happy with many of the fantasy options here. I'm hoping for the first one, but I'm expecting the second one. 54.5 over under. Vegas definitely thinks this one could turn into a shootout, and I do think one of the big determinants of whether or not this game will be as high scoring as we're hoping for is Julio Jones. Obviously, Julio Jones missed last week after dealing with that hamstring injury. He's been dealing with it since week 2, injured against the Cowboys. I guess he technically injured it before the season started, but it got re-aggravated in week 2. He missed week 3, came back in week 4 against the Packers, got injured again, missed week 5, not practicing as of Wednesday, but Wednesday is a typically veteran rest day. I don't know what the plan is with the new regime, new coaches taking in. We don't have Dan Quinn fighting for his job anymore. So they might just say, all right, Julio, we're going to keep you on the bench until you feel like you're 100%. I don't know that they're going to do that. And I also don't know that Julio Jones is going to be okay with that, because he's a competitor and he wants to, ride out the last couple of years of his career not on the bench. So we'll see. At this point, I'm leaning towards Julio potentially being out, which is why I'm a little more pessimistic about this over-under, because Matt Ryan looks completely broken without Julio Jones in tow. If Julio Jones is not active, I'm very scared at starting many of the Falcons' options here. If Julio Jones is back, it gives me a little more confidence. On the Vikings side, well, we'll jump over and talk about the start sits here in a second. The Falcons have been abysmal on defense. They've been giving up the most points to quarterbacks, the second most to tight ends, the 8th most to running backs and receivers. Vikings have started to pick things up a little bit on defense. They're still giving up the 12th most to quarterbacks, 14th to running backs, and 6th to receivers. That secondary still needs some work, but they're starting to gel a little bit more in their front 7. So Vikings are favored to win this one by 3.5. I'm surprised it's not more, to be honest. But again, maybe Vegas is expecting Julio to be back. So as we mentioned, Todd Gurley is going to be a decent start as long as he continues to score touchdowns. You probably don't have a better option at this point. Gurley looked good against the Panthers last week. Granted, the Panthers are the worst run defense in the league, so it's not hard to look good against them, but at least when he had the ball, he was cutting very well. He looked fast. He was able to get to the outside and beat the defenders to the edge. He looked like Gurley. Like Gurley should, and what we were hoping that Gurley would look like in the Falcons. So as long as he stays healthy, he's continuing to get the goal line work. Gurley, and he got a lot of receptions last week too. That definitely boosted his fantasy value. Gurley remains a decent RB2 with RB1 upside. Calvin Ridley, you're pretty much starting no matter what at this point. If you don't like the fact that you have to start Calvin Ridley, you should be trading him before his value goes down, because it's still very high. Now, Julio Jones, I have the 4 stars here just to absolutely reiterate. I don't know when you watch this video. I know people like to jump in on this video 3 days after I record it and act as if I'm able to go back and change what I said on Wednesday. I can re-record it, but here's the thing. We're doing this on Wednesday to give you guys a jump start on what we think is going to happen, so that way you can make waiver pickups and start setting your lineup or make trades in anticipation of what is going to happen. But things do change. Between today and Sunday, Julio Jones could, completely recover, or he could not practice the whole week and they're going to keep him on the bench. I don't know at this point. So if I had to make a guess, I would say Julio probably sits this week, which means I'm not going to be trusting Matt Ryan. If Julio Jones plays, if he's practicing on Thursday and Friday and it looks like he's actually trending in a positive direction, I'm at least more confident in starting Ryan against this poor Vikings pass defense. I'm not going to go and be starting Hayden Hurst until he shows us something. Last week was just an absolutely pathetic performance against a defense that had been allowing a good bit of points to the tight end. I can't trust Hurst at this point. I'm not really excited about any of the other options here, regardless of whether or not Julio plays. Like I said, if Julio plays, that's the only way I expect this game getting anywhere near the over-under. Otherwise, I think the Vikings are going to win this one pretty decisively. On the Vikings side, I think Kirk Cousins remains a good start this week, with the exception of week 2, where he completely destroyed your fantasy team by putting up negative score. He's been pretty decent playing against the Falcons, who were giving up the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I think you can start him. It's looking like Dalvin Cook is out. Mike Zimmer kind of changed his tune today and was like saying that maybe Dalvin Cook could actually play. I hope they don't do that. I think that Dalvin Cook could use the rest. Vikings are going on bye in week 7, so if Dalvin Cook could get the week off, let Mattison play this one. Mattison will be one of the best running back starts on the week. If Cook does play, that sucks because you run the risk that Cook comes out, plays a quarter, re-injures the groin, and then Mattison comes out anyway. So if Cook plays, let's say you're in a situation where you picked up Mattison and you don't roster Cook right now, like you're split. It's not a handcuff situation. I think you can flex Mattison even if Cook plays on the basis of the fact that they're probably not going to give Cook a full workload. If you have both of these guys, you can't ever bench Dalvin Cook, but just expect that there's a chance that he could end up re-injuring this and putting up a pretty poor fantasy performance. That's why if you roster Mattison and you're also, the guy that has Cook, you're hoping that Cook sits this week. Mattison is a capable backup. He's not as good of a red zone runner. I don't think he's going to score the touchdowns that Cook would, but he's going to get the volume because with Cook out, Mattison, we saw what he did against the Seahawks on Sunday night, got a ton of yardage, and I think he'll end up being 80 to 90% of what you'd expect from Cook, especially in this juicy matchup against the poor Falcons defense. So monitor that situation and hit me up in the comment section if something changes between now and then. But as it stands right now, I think Dalvin Cook will sit this week, and Mattison remains a fantastic top 5 running back start this week. Adam Thielen is top 3 wide receiver at this point. Should be another good game for him here. And Justin Jefferson should continue his rookie of the year potential, fighting for that spot there. Looking pretty good 3 weeks in a row now. Give him another start here against the Falcons. Irv Smith finally had a showing. He had some decent targets on Sunday night. I'm not going to be playing him in fantasy, but keep an eye on him. We need tight ends. A lot of the tight ends that we were hoping to break out have been pretty inconsistent at this point. Hopefully, they'll start to get Irv Smith a bit more involved because I think he could be a really good tight end in this league, especially for fantasy. But at this point, he's only had one decent game, so just monitor that situation. Not starting Mike Boone or Ole B.C. Johnson or Kyle Rudolph. And you could start the Vikings defense if you're desperate. I do think that Ryan is prone to throw some picks here, but he hasn't really been throwing that many picks up to this point, to be fair. So I'm not really that excited about either defense in this one. I think I have my score based on Julio not playing. I got the Vikings winning this one pretty easily, 31-21. If Julio does play, look for this game to potentially be a little bit closer, a little bit more high scoring. But overall, I think this one will hit the under unless Julio plays.